Here's a man who would not take it anymore. A man who stood up against the scum, the dogs, the filth. Here is someone who stood up.
It's time for Citizen Smith.
How you doing today? This is Citizen Smith on Talkcast PDX. How are you today? We're live, so you can chat as much as you want. Don't worry about what you say. Just say it honestly. Your chat will appear, and we will show it. So I'm in Portland, Oregon, as you know, broadcasting live every weekday from 9 a.m. to 9:30 right now. And it's my new city that I've been exploring for 4 months now. I moved here from Boston during a pandemic. And I don't know if I like it here anymore. I mean, I like Portland, but it's a rough city to live in because of the homeless problem. And I'm just going to cut to the truth. And yesterday was just another prime example here at Central East Side. We're just driving across the street, down the road from the studio, and what do we see? Homicide unit in a camp of homeless. Somebody obviously looks like they were murdered. All the yellow tape was around the area. I don't know, man. This stuff is routine. It's like becoming routine. Overdoses, now, murders. The homeless people have increased in my neighborhood in Central East Side in the last week. I've seen the increase. It's like they all came from somewhere else and moved into the neighborhood, even more so than they already were. And it's rough, man, living in this environment. I'm in my 50s. I don't want to deal with this. I was told there was a homeless problem, but when you start living in it and seeing it every day and having to walk by it, when you walk by their camps on the sidewalk, it's filth. There's trash everywhere. Don't tell me they're living cleanly. They're it's a filthy environment they're in. They pick up their own trash, but you can't walk. You have to go on the other side of the street to avoid walking through stuff. And watching people ODing, passed out on the streets, you don't know if they're dead or alive. This is an everyday occurrence for me and everybody who lives in Central East Side especially. You go downtown, you see it too. But it's even more so, I'm finding, on Central East Side. There's big camps everywhere, just underneath overpasses and such. And when you see a homicide unit out like I did yesterday, then now they're killing each other. And I wanted to stop and see what was going on, but we were in a rush, so we drove by. But something like that went down when you see a detective there and the yellow tape around. And so I'm at this point where I was talking to my friend the other day, and I'm like, geez, I love the network we've got. I'm doing a talk, so everything's good, but I got to live in a situation that's more like a third world city in situations where the homeless are on the streets than it is like an American first world city. And that's the way Portland is right now. And you won't find anybody out there that doesn't see it the same way if they're honest and cutting to the truth, which is exactly what this show does. So you start asking yourself the question when you wake up and you walk again by the homeless people on the sidewalk that you must pass every day, or you're the person passed out, and you say to yourself, why am I subjecting myself to this at this point in my life? There's 23-year-olds, 24, 25, people in their 20s in my apartment building. They don't seem fazed by it at all because, at that age, you're pretty adaptable. Nothing really bothers you that much. But when you get a little older in life, you're expecting things to be a little more civil, a little more enjoyable for yourself. As I said to my friend Justin, who usually is producing the show, today he's not here, but I said to Justin yesterday when we drove by the homicide, the murder allegedly what I was looking at. I just want to be like in a place like a Lake Oswego, with a little place right on the shoreline. When I wake up in the morning, I see some ducks swimming by, and I hear some birds in the trees, which is something I don't experience now in life. What I hear when I wake up in the morning is a screaming lunatic walking down the sidewalk, drugged out of his mind, high as a kite, screaming at his demons. And I hear this every single day in the morning. Sometimes 3 a.m., sometimes 5 a.m., 7 a.m. Last night it was a woman yelling. 4 months, man. 4 months I've been dealing with this. And it's suddenly starting to hit me that I don't want to deal with it. But then I got to take a penalty for a late fee, early termination, from the apartment building. So I'm thinking to myself, how long am I going to suck it up? Because I ain't digging this life. Not at this point. Not where I'm at, age-wise, demographically speaking. I'm a Lake Oswego guy right now. That's where I should be. But I like to be able to walk to the studio because we're doing a lot of work here and it's good to be located here. So I'm going to suck it up. But I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to share it with you. Because that's what I do in this show. I talk about the local issues. Right now, the local issue is homeless people, and it doesn't get any worse than Portland, Oregon. And if it does, maybe, I don't know, you're in Syria or Afghanistan, where they're blowing each other up and murdering each other. I don't want to downplay those scenarios because that's as bad as it gets in the world. But as bad as it gets in America, Portland, Oregon is right up there. It's a great city. Don't get me wrong. I love the river and you walk over and it's got all the good stuff that makes for a great city. The culture, the art, the wonderful food and restaurants. But it's surrounded and infiltrated by homeless people who are nuts. They're out of their minds, man. They're really in trouble mentally. And you don't know some days if you're walking by and they're going to pull something on you or they're usually leave you alone, but you still got to deal with it, watch it and see it get worse before it's getting better. And that's exactly where we're at. Like I said, they've increased their locations now. The city has backed off on eliminating camps and now saying they can stay within 10 feet of a business or residential entrance. And they've embraced it. The homeless are now pretty much all over. You could see the increase in the neighborhoods. They were before maybe hidden somewhere away from the neighborhood, but they have now moved back into the neighborhoods. Summertime, can we at least put some more porta potties out? You can't even find the damn things. There's like one in every 10 square miles. How hard is it for the city of Portland to put more porta potties out for the homeless people so they aren't shitting and pissing in the street, so they can be more human-like? And it's as simple as a porta potty. And when you have the porta potties, they need to be emptied. And I know that's an issue. Is that too much to ask for? And while I'm on it, can we have more community service people, social workers, in city-provided vans and vehicles looking out for the ones that are ODing on the streets so that we, the citizens, don't have to handle this problem alone? There's only one line you can call, and that's the non-emergency line for the police. Otherwise, I haven't been able to find a number you can call that helps somebody in need on the homeless situation who's ODing or looks like they're in a really bad situation health-wise. The city has $250 million every year now to work with. Buy some vehicles that you can pick people up and escort them to either an assisted situation for housing or a medical facility without having to rely on the police, which they don't have enough time. They're not answering the phone. And if they want to respond, it's usually for criminal activity. You've got the ambulances, but sometimes these people don't need an ambulance. Saw it the other day. Sunday, right? This is what happened. I'm walking to go to get my coffee at Kova. Great coffee place. I'm walking down the street, and there's a fire truck, a police officer, and an ambulance. And I thought, oh, somebody must have died, right? It's got to be pretty serious. Why the fire truck? One homeless guy was in the doorway. They were putting him on the stretcher, and took him away. But it took fire truck, policeman, ambulance to help the one guy. And he was conscious. He was moving around. So I don't know why the fire truck was there, but you can't have those kind of responses for situations that are every day. It's going to tax the system. You should have some social secure services set up with vans, and maybe contracting with the ambulances when you need them. But neighborhood patrols, right? Let's call it that. You've got $250 million. You want to build facilities, great. But you should have assistance and services that are routinely driving around every day in the city, up and down neighborhoods, with phone numbers for people to call, saying, hey, look, I see somebody on this street at this corner who looks like they might be overdosing, or they just need some help. I'm not sure of their situation. This is where they are. Okay, thanks for the phone call. We'll be right there. They show up in a van or whatever they have for a vehicle. They check on the person. They assess the situation. A, does it need an ambulance? B, can we just help them up, get them into a safer situation? How hard would that be? With $250 million, this should be already enacted. I know you don't have all the money and it's coming in as the taxes are paid, City of Portland. But I certainly hope that you're being proactive in setting up such neighborhood services through a state-run business, or financing through the state and city, I should say, through the city's finances for the homeless people, working with nonprofits to expand their services and ability to help. There's nonprofits out there, but I've been calling around. It's tough to get a hold of any of them. I don't know if they're out of business. They lost their funding, but there's enough organizations that you could certainly work with them, provide the funding to them to enhance their staff and services. They're already out there if they haven't gone bankrupt or gone out of business. But if they're not, let's establish some more. Because first and foremost, you got to be on the streets helping these very people that I'm talking about. And there's a lot of them in trouble. They're saying there's over 10,000 homeless people in Portland. They're a city unto themselves. And it's just frustrating to watch this happen. Where the hell is the city leadership? Maybe it takes an outsider like myself to have this perspective. There seems to be a lot of antipathy towards this. Did I get the right word there? My brain's fried right now after that thought-provoking insight that I'm trying to provide on an issue that is so serious. It's hard to talk about it because it's so severe. I just never encountered anything like it in a city that is a major city like Portland. It is overwhelming, but that's why we have city leaders, to get together and figure out the solutions to the problem. But we need citizens' actions too, and we need people to talk. I'm not hearing anything from leaders in the city. They're kind of hidden behind doors. Let's be more transparent. Let's have neighborhood meetings where you go out to the neighborhood and meet with people. Let's have town hall meetings where the public can weigh in on the situation. Have them in the different neighborhoods where we see it the most. Communicate, right? Figure out the solutions that are needed. Address the problems together as a community and a city. We don't need just bureaucrats talking about it in the city council. We need the neighborhood people calling, citizens talking about it and coming up with solutions and working together to fix the problem that we have to live with. End of issue. Talk about it again. It will come up. The other issue that's come up is inflation that I read about today. They're saying that inflation now is starting to spike upwards. And I was discussing this the other day that the consumer index now is like 5.4%, which is what they use to address inflation. And if you're out there, and this is the highest index they've had since the 2008 recession. If you're in a supermarket right now, a grocery store or gas station, haven't you seen the prices going up every week? Hasn't that little dozen eggs you bought gone up? That milk carton gone up? Restaurant prices up? I mean, it's expensive right now to feed yourself. Just the grocery prices alone are exorbitant. They're really high. I mean, that's my price index. That's my consumer index. When I go to the grocery store, I know exactly what's going on in the economy. I'm seeing it on the shelves. And I'll be damned if I can go into a grocery store and not spend at least $70 just for a few days of food or 3 or 4 days of this and that. Next thing you know, you're at, I mean, I could not buy a good steak, or I could not buy the sockeye salmon at $17 a pound. Although at Safeway it was $12. Still pricey, right? I bought some rockfish. Got a great deal. $1 a pound. It's like, yeah, something I can really afford that's not killing me. But you want to buy a prime steak, $25 a pound. I mean, who the hell can afford that? I mean, if you're not making six figures, you shouldn't be touching stuff like that. And sometimes I do, and I see my credit card bill come in. I'm like, grocery store, Market of Choice, Safeway, Sheridan's, Whole Foods. I don't go to Whole Foods, but Winco. Oh, everything's a grocery bill, and it just goes down. And I see it's always the price is going up every month on my overall payments there. Welcome to inflation, people. They say it's going to go down as soon as the post-pandemic settles. The post-pandemic economy is going to settle down. Inflation will come down. I don't see it happening, man. I'm talking end of the year. Could go on for 6 months to another year. I see the inflation continuing for at least a half a year. I'm no economist, but I don't see it. These prices don't go up and then suddenly come down. We got a situation where there's distribution problems. The drought is killing fruit and vegetable crops. Minimum wages have gone up. Can't staff. Inflation. It's going to keep going up. Watch your wallets. Use less credit card transactions, they say, and use more cash. That will save you money. When you use cash, you're more responsible. But then you've got a lot of people who won't even take cash. We're only taking credit card. It's easy to say use cash, but the people who say use cash because it saves you money, because you watch your dollars, you don't watch your credit card, aren't living in reality, because reality is everything is credit card transactions. Nobody carries the paper around anymore. When I lived in China, they use WeChat Pay, digital payment system. Nobody has money there. It's all through WeChat Pay. Weixin, we call it. And when I came back to America, I was like, cash, money, what? Oh, credit card, right? Yeah, that's how okay, so I'm cashless for the most part. I'll carry around $20-$40, but it's only for those transactions where I really don't want to use my credit card. But it's impossible to control your spending with credit cards. You will spend more using a credit card. We will go beyond the means that we are capable of repaying the next month. We will go into debt using credit cards. They say the same experience of using a credit card and buying things is the same stimulation you get from drugs, like from a high, or from something that makes you euphoric. It's the same chemistry reaction to your brain when you're using a credit card and buying something and there's no effort involved. There's no penalty at the time. You don't feel the pain of the purchase. And you feel great. Hey, look I just bought something. So easy and so wonderful. And I fall into that. We all do. And that's how you go into debt, and that's how inflation increases too. And when you're dealing with inflation, the credit card is your greatest enemy because you overspend. I feel like I'm lecturing today, but I am, I guess. I'm bringing up the issues that are going on out there for everyday post-pandemic life. Internationally speaking, I just want to address this issue that I keep watching, and that's Afghanistan. I talked about Haiti yesterday. There are some serious situations out there for America right now internationally, and Haiti's one because I think we're going to have to move troops in to that island to keep. Whenever we start talking about American forces going into foreign countries, you got big issues that we're facing. And right now, Haiti's like, please help us. And the U.S. should be there helping. I don't know what President Biden's doing, why he's dragging his feet. But I think we got to get our troops into Haiti to bring some law and order to that place because it's right off our coast. They're right around the corner from us. We have a large Haitian population in Miami and other cities. And it's our responsibility, that island. We've taken it on. And they need our help. We need to get there and do some work and keep some safety before it becomes a mini Syria with just implodes. And then there's Afghanistan. This is the one that I wonder about the most. 20 years we've been there, and now we're out. We're down to the embassy and like 1,400 people there. We're not offering any military support anymore, and it's essentially between the Afghan forces that we built up and the Taliban. And then yesterday I see an image, which is horrific, and I'm thinking this is what they're dealing with every single day. Was it 20 commandos or so that were having it out with the Taliban in a firefight, threw down their arms and walked out with their hands up, and then were mowed down by the Taliban. And they showed this on video. CNN, or was it one of the TV networks, cable networks, showed it. They just shot them, defenseless. And then they said the Taliban that shot them didn't speak the same language as the local Afghan people, so they seemed to be foreign mercenaries coming in from another country. So here we are, 20 years ago, this was what it was like. Now we withdraw our troops, and this is a country that is going into civil war, and the foreign forces that hate America, hate a free Afghanistan are in there now in forces, and the Taliban is going to win. The very enemy we started with 20 years later is back at it, and that's who's going to be controlling this country. And we're going to see exactly the same country we saw 20 years ago before we went in there. We just spent 20 years to essentially accomplish nothing. And the question is, did we do the right thing to leave? At first, I was really of the strong opinion, yes, the United States needs to leave. We can't continue a war we can't win. Now you see what's going on when we do leave. And even though we couldn't win, we were containing situations like that video that we watched. Are we going to regret leaving? There was a lot of war veterans they interviewed, and I read that were very strongly supporting President Biden. But then there's other war veterans who were supporting the commanders who were saying we shouldn't leave, like Vietnam veterans. Don't leave Afghanistan like we left Vietnam. But that's exactly what we did. And they're saying that we should have learned from our mistake. So what do you do, though? You have to keep troops in there, and then they're getting killed and then, maimed. But is it our responsibility to maintain order in a country like Afghanistan? So if we don't maintain order and we do just get out, and now we're focusing on the South China Sea and China, which we consider our forces are more needed, and you got people like Japan saying, you need to be here. This is where things really matter. And our concerns for Taiwan and the South China Sea and Indonesia, Vietnam, these are hot points now for possible conflicts with China. We can't be everywhere. So we've made our choice out of Afghanistan, focus on the South China Sea and other places in that area, and good luck to Afghanistan. How this plays out, I don't think it's going to be good for the country, but I'll stand by the president's decision. And it's good not to see our own military men and women coming back with mental the strain of the war, the physical toll it takes on you as a soldier, and how much can America do? When should we draw the line next time we enter a country? And I brought up Haiti, but I think it is one country where we could go in and do some law and order where they need it, and we should be there. So I mean, we are one of the world's peacekeepers, and that's been our role since the end of World War II. We either embrace it still or we walk away from it, and we're not in a position to walk away. Somebody else will fill the void and do a worse job. I completely support America's ability to manage difficult situations, even though our history doesn't show that in many cases. But we're better than anybody else, I'll say. I'm a patriot. I'll stand by my country's ability to do the right thing for freedom and democracy in other countries that don't have it. We don't always do the right thing, I understand. But in a situation like Haiti, to leave that island in the situation it is would be irresponsible and dangerous for the people there. Tough country. They've been going through some stuff. Earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, you name it, they get it. And now they have this where their president was assassinated and all hell's breaking loose in anarchy. Heavy show today, man. Sorry about that. I was going to talk about Ewan McGregor and his broken leg and why Joe Rogan was interviewing the guy. Where is my little link? It's a kind of a strange transition, but Joe Rogan, he covers these UFC fights, and Ewan McGregor broke his leg, and he's lying down on the mat. The fight's over, and Joe Rogan goes up to the guy with you can see his shin is snapped. It's got to be really painful. He's got it in a leg brace by the time Joe Rogan stands up and starts interviewing him while he's on the mat with a broken leg. We'll see if we can bring it up here, because it's the strangest thing I've ever seen in a sports interview. A guy breaks his leg and then, hey, let's talk. This is from Conor McGregor. I said Ewan McGregor. Conor McGregor, the UFC fighter.
Stop it a horrible way. Give us your thoughts on how it was going. I was boxing the bleeding head off him, kicking the bleeding leg off him. Usual shy dive to close the distance. This is not over. If we have to take this outside with him, it's all outside. We don't give a. He said that he believes that one of the kicks that he checked is what broke your leg. There was no check. There was not one of them I checked. Your wife is in me DMs, hey baby, hit me back on my chat till later on.
Oh, that was some crude shit. I can't believe he said that. All right, that's good enough. Well, that's a hell of a time to interview somebody, let me tell you. Guy breaks his leg. He's in pain, obviously. And you sit down there in the middle of the ring and start interviewing a guy with a broken leg. If you did that at the NFL, guy's broken his leg in the field and an announcer runs on the field or waits till he comes to the sideline is interviewing the guy while he's got a broken leg and a stretcher, they'd fire the reporter. And they certainly wouldn't do the interview. Joe Rogan, man, I don't know what he was thinking getting in there and doing that interview. I don't know why Ewan McGregor wasn't taken right the hell out of there, taken care of medically. And don't say anything, brother. You're in pain. You're in shock. And you shouldn't be interviewed at this point in the fight. Conor McGregor I think his career's over now. I can't see the guy. You've made your millions, dude. Once your shin starts snapping because of whatever happened, you kicking them or them kicking your bones have had it. You know, you can only take so much physical abuse as a human being, and when your shin starts breaking apart because of a kick, it's time to call it quits. Conor McGregor's a badass. Apologies for calling you Ewan McGregor. Conor McGregor made his millions. Conor McGregor was a great guy to watch. He's a hardcore mean son of a bitch. But he can take his dollars and relax now. If I was him, I'd retire. That's it. Game over. And that's the end of the show. I'm Citizen Smith. Thanks for putting up with me today.